We prepared this for you guys.
Yes, sabi sa inyo eh, mag-speak kami lahat eh.
Alright, so ito yung napakahalagang part ng ating webinar. So these are the scientific research steps. So paano ba, madaming tanong sa ating Google Forms, paano ba ako makakahanap ng topic na gusto mong i-research? So these are the steps you have to take. First, you have to formulate a research question or problem, take a look at the background and do an observation. Then formulate hypothesis, design your experiment, test the hypothesis and data, interpret or analyze results, and then publish your findings. So for the first step, okay, well, naririnig ba ako?
Hang ka ng mga slide.
Proceed na tayo sa...
Sige.
Okay. So for the first step, in formulating a research question or a research problem, paano ko malalaman kung tama ba yung pinupursue kong topic? So next slide. Hello? Next slide. Yan. So in formulating a research question, it's either a bottom-up or a top-down approach or pwede ding pareho kasi 'di ba? In finding a research question, first you have to read in your field of interest. So bottom-up, paano ba yung bottom-up? Pwedeng meron ka na meron kang specific topic na gusto, like for example, nanotechnology. Then for that, you have to read about nanotechnology, the basics and the details about that. And then from that, you can then formulate a topic na pataas naman. Maybe you can apply other concepts. Kaya bottom up, from a specific topic, you will then combine other topics to create a big picture of your research. Then for the top-down approach naman, pwede halimbawa interested ka sa paggalaw ng araw. So, tapos interested ka din sa energy production, then maybe you can create a robot or a machine na susundan yung galaw ng araw. So you will apply the principles to create a specific research naman. So, halimbawa, gagawa ka ng machine na susundan yung galaw ng araw for energy production. So that's the top-down approach. Yung pupunta ka sa specific na topic. Then seek related journals. Yan, napakahalaga niyan. And ask expert opinion. So in our case, we ask for expert opinion rin kasi it's super important na may guidance ka ng expert kung tama ba itong topic na to. Bakit ko kukunin yung antioxidant activity ng isang plant? Ano pala to, hindi pala siya available or hindi pala siya pwedeng ma-extract yung leaves niya, sabi ng aming expert. Kaya napakahalaga na magtanong ng expert opinion. So that's all for formulating a research question. And then for our next, background or review of related literature. We have Ms. Ryan Magsumol. Okay, guys. Just so you know, later, Ms. Lyson will join us. Malate lang siya ng konti, kaya we'll discuss this part. Okay?
Okay, so for the background or review of related literature, we should seek study or experimental designs. So sa studies, dapat scholarly articles yung hahanapin natin. Pwede kayo maghanap sa Google Scholar, and other sites. Yon. So dapat around 20 or more RRLs yung Gagamitin nyo with varying mediums like the internet source, newspapers, books, and others. And all, rele- all relevant concepts and variables must be reviewed. So sa variables, independent variable, the dependent variable which affects the independent variable, and the control variable that cannot be changed but affects the overall result of the experimentation. So dapat talaga um, thorough yung paggagawa nyo ng RRL and hindi kinakram. Yan.
Thank you, Miss Ryan. Jana, who's next?
Go, get me.
Okay, next for the hypothesis, it answers the questions or problem being addressed. It should be measurable, ibig sabihin realistic, at may sasagot mo yung hypothesis after the research. It includes the significance and also it must be more than three hypotheses and it must be objective. And that's for the hypothesis.
Thank you, Miss JM.
Alright, so for the design experiment, syempre, yung gagawin yung planning sa pag-experiment nyo, dapat based siya dun sa hypothesis nyo kasi hindi siya magiging reliable, hindi kayo paniniwalaan ng panel kung out of nowhere, hindi nila makita dun sa hypothesis mo yung ginawa yung process, di ba? Pangalawa, consult experts and research institutions. Kagaya sa amin, ang ginawa naming process is nag-search kami sa Google, sa sa library ng school, kung ng mga related na studies sa amin, tapos tinignan namin kung sino yung mga consultants nila, tapos doon nag-lead sa amin na ma-meet namin yung sa analog, na nakamit kami doon ng amazing na mga katulong sa robotics na research namin, di ba? Third, critically read related studies. When we say critically, dapat critical talaga. Kasi you should really be mitikuloso sa paggamit ng related studies mo sa gagamitin mong experiment. Kasi halimbawa, sobrang outdated na for last 20 years pa ginawa yung experiment na yon. Tama bang yun yung gagamitin mo para sa process ng experimentation mo? Hindi, di ba? Dapat yung mas latest na process na related studies, yun yung mas pipiliin mo. Ganon. Fourth, search for standard tests and protocols. So, often, sa mga ganitong standard tests at protocols, nalapit tayo sa DOST para tumulong halimbawa, authenticate, tumulong laboratory test, several kinds, various kinds ng tests at protocols depending on your kind of research. Ganun siya. Kailangan sobrang maingat ka sa pagde-design ng iyong experiment.
Hey guys! Naririnig ba ako?
Yes.
Yes. So, for the test of hypothesis and the collection of data. So, first, this will be long, but I'll make it short. So, first is to be under the supervision of your advisor or your qualified scientist. As mentioned before, yung past webinar series natin, sinabi ng speakers natin na you should have an approachable qualified scientist, which is very important. In our case, nung lumaban kami, there has been many problems and we have the contact number. So, sobrang bait ng aming research consultant, natatawagan namin siya, like, nasa mismong competition kami, we can call him and all things like that. We can PM him on Facebook, ganun. So, make sure to have an approachable qualified scientist. And also for during the experimentation, kaya siya dapat approachable kasi dapat nandun siya. So, for the supervision. So, next one is to accomplish the required forms first. So, every researches has different forms needed. So, for example, your research needs human participants, while your classmates' research doesn't need to have it. So, it varies from your researches. Pero make sure na lahat ng kailangan dun sa ano mo, sa research mo, ma-accomplish mo kasi yun yung pinaka ano kapag nalaban. Next is must be true and correct. So, even if nag-negative yung results nyo, that's okay because the main point of doing a research is para may mapatunayan ka. It doesn't mean na kapag negative yung research mo, negative na yon. Wala ka nang napatunayan. What important is may napatunayan ka. Paulit-ulit. Sorry. Okay, next is to double check the procedures for accurate collection. So, to double check, kaya tayo may trials. This is related to the fifth one, the try and don't give up easily. Related sila, kaya tayo may trials 1 to 3 kasi for the first trial, pwedeng hindi tama or may nangyari, may intervening variable. And kaya may trial 2 and trial 3. So for the last one is the documentation. So this is very important since it will be placed on your data journals. It's better if you can really catch the attention or the mismong action nung halimbawa may participants kayo, for example, ours, kumukuha kami ng laway. Dito kami best experience pero nakakadire. Pinuri kami kasi na-catch talaga namin yung pagdura nung participant namin. So that's better if you can catch the action of your participants. That's all. Thank you.
Thank you, Miss Nicole. Next is
To interpret and analyze results, this is the main section of the scientific research. Dito mapapatunayan kung rejected or accepted yung hypothesis nyo. So in order for you to do that, your p-value must be less than or equal to the significance level, then you must reject the null hypothesis, and vice versa. And it is okay to have negative results. So sabi nga ni Nicole Olgado na depende naman yan sa pinapatunayan mo. If it's negative, it's okay. And it's positive, it's better. So, you need to also compare it with result studies and literature para may basis ka rin sa results mo. And para mas ma-explain mo yung topic mo. And para mas ma-explain mo kuwari sa judges na may basis ka. And para like mapatunayan mo kung ano yung meaning ng study mo talaga. So, yun lang. Thank you.
a new presentation. It's about writing a research paper. Yan. Oh, bagong set of tips. So, the first one is, what are the parts of a research paper?
So,
Can we, wait lang, we'll take a glimpse of it. So the required parts of a research paper in science fairs are the title, the abstract, the introduction, the literature review, the methodology, results and discussion, and conclusion. So ilan yan? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 parts ang required. Okay. For the first part,
for the first part of the research paper is the title. The title of your research must be straight to the point. Straight to the point meaning no unnecessary words or phrases included. Next is that it must be simple and if possible in layman's term. Layman's term refers to the simple language that anyone can understand. Better na simple terminologies ang gagamitin sa title para mas maintindihan ng audience. And lastly, include all relevant and necessary variables presented in the research. This is very important as this will give the audience an overview of the study. So it's really necessary to include variables involved in your study. So we have here sample titles that perfectly follows the description that we have here. The first one is the cytotoxic property of Musa acuminata or lakatan against human breast carcinoma cells MCF7 using MTT assay. And the last one is the microplastic detector, counter, and collector using TensorFlow through machine vision. That's all.
So for the next part, we have the abstract. So yung abstract, madalas is 150 to 250 words siya. Maximum na yung 250 words. So abstract is basically the summary of the whole research paper. So madalas, ganito na ang pina-follow niyang format from the purpose, procedure, data collected to conclusion. Madalas, isang paragraph lang siya. Makikita niyo sa next samples. Pero pag nakadepende sa school niyo for projects, hiwa-hiwalay yung paragraph niya. For example, isang paragraph sa purpose, isang paragraph sa procedure, ganun. So, ganito yung sample niya. Ito yung sa abstract ng pinanglaban sa ISEF. So, ayan, solar tracking. Tapos, kita nyo naman, maiksi lang siya, ganyan. Pero dyan na lahat kailangan nyo malaman about the research. Tapos, ito yung sa sample nung kanina. Ganito yung sa school, sa CAPSI, na nakaparagraph siya, tapos maximum ang 250 words. So, ito makikita nyo sa purpose, tapos yun sa methodology, tapos yun sa results.
So next is the introduction. So introduction, it outlines the research questions. It highlights the significance with the topics, convey relevance in a concise manner. So sa introduction, dun included yung pinaka-problem ng research mo, parang i-state mo doon using related literatures kung ano ba yung target mong solution na problem. Tapos nandun na din yung mga supporting details na kailangan mo. Tapos sa introduction, nandun na din yung may 6 parts ng introduction. Ang first part ng introduction is background of the study. Yung pangalawa is yung statement of the problem. Tapos yung pangatlo, hypothesis. Yung pang-apat, importance of the study. Yung pang-lima, scope and limitation. Yung pang-six, definition of terms. So yun din sa background, nandun nga yung pinaka-problem mo. Tapos mag-include ka din ng mga literature na sumusupport sa pinaka-problem mo. Tapos kung ano yung intended mo na solution sa problem na yon. Tapos sa statement of the problem naman, nandun nakapaloob yung mga questions na gustong sagot, yung masasagot ng research mo, which is yung pag nakuha niya na yung result, dun siya masasagot. Tapos pangatlo is yung hypothesis, yung sinabi kanina. Tapos importance of the study, kung ano ba yung magiging important sa study niyo, kung ano ba yung maapektuhan niya, kung sino yung matutulungan niya. Tapos yung pang-lima, scope and limitation, nandyan yung mga limit lang ng research mo. Like kunwari, ang research mo is cytotoxicity sa prostate cancer. So i-include mo yon na kunwari, prostate cancer lang yung scope ng study mo, na hindi nakasama din yung mga breast cancer, yung mga colon cancer, gano'n. Tapos yung sa definition of terms naman, yung mga terms na unique sa research mo, i-include mo doon. At yung magiging definition ng mga terms na yun is relevant lang din sa pinaka-study mo. Yan ang introduction. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nico. Yan, this is sample.
Wait.
Okay. So next, literature review.
In literature review, it is also known as narrative review. It is a survey of scholarly sources. Dito papasok yung books, journal, articles, and thesis na mga, just like what Aterian said, na makikita natin sa Google Scholar. So, related siya sa specific topic or research question which is important or essential, just like in any part of your research. It would be your guide since it will assist you in looking for theoretical values, published data, beliefs, and related studies. So in our case, hindi lang kami nag-base sa literature review kasi mayroong ibang hindi sinasama yung author since kasi nga pwede siya magaya. And sa ginawa namin, kinontak namin mismo yung author. So nag-send kami ng email sa author, yung isa ay from Canada, yung isa ay from UP Baguio. And malaking tulong siya. So literature review is important. That's all. Thank you.
Okay guys, para naman sa methodology, dito nyo ipapakita lahat ng ginawa nyo para sa experimentation nyo. So sa materials, i-indicate nyo kahit gano'n siya liit na material na ginamit nyo, and also kung isa ka sa gumamit ng mga programming, kung ikaw ay isang applied science or RIM, i-indicate mo rin dito kung ano yung ginamit mong programming language or text editor and IDEs. Tapos, ang methodology, kailangan siya ay clearly and comprehensively. Kasi pag mga readers mo, kailangan maintindihan nila agad dito at kailangan din na detalyado yung methodology mo para pag binasa nila ay replicate nila yung ginawa mo at kung gusto nilang i-improve pa yung research mo, magagawa rin nila ito. So it includes designs or drawings. Kailangan to sa methodology upang mapakita yung mga ginawa mo at kung picture naman yung ilalagay mo, kailangan siyang maglagay ng reference o kung sino yung kumuha ng picture mo. Sa designs naman, kung may device ka, kailangan mong magpakita ng schematic diagram or end circuit diagrams. Yun lang. Thank you.
Thank you. Next.
Next naman ay yung results and discussion. So dito nakalagay yung outcome ng experiments nyo, positive man to or negative. Then significant data lamang dapat ang ilalagay dito kasi meron tayong separate page para sa raw data. Tapos yung data na ilalagay nyo dito sa results and discussion, naka-table siya or naka-figure like graphs, bar graphs yun. Then nakalagay din dito yung statistical analysis nyo, yung t-test, one-way ANOVA or z-test, at saka yung IDPA. Then pwede rin kayo mag-compare ng results from different literature or related studies. Tapos, bawat table or figure, syempre may discussion. Doon nyo i-interpret yung data na nakuha nyo. Doon din nakalagay yung meanings. Pwede rin sumagot doon sa question na why, how, or so what. So dito sa discussion, pwede rin nakalagay, dapat nakalagay dito yung mga RRLs na sumusuporta doon sa data nyo. Kung paano ba nangyari yon, bakit ganun yung naging kinalabasan. At pwede rin dito nakalagay yung mga most interesting points ng experiments nyo. And also, pwede nyo rin dito i-discuss yung mga possible errors na nangyari sa experimentation nyo. Yun lang.
So next is the conclusion. That is the chapter 4 of your paper. So you will briefly analyze what the paper proposed, discussed, and concluded. You will indicate there whether your hypothesis is rejected or accepted. Next is the potential application. So for the future use and to whom your study will be beneficial. Lastly is the impact of the problem in solving present and future problems. So, yan yung connection ng study nyo sa problems na kinakaharap namin ngayon saka sa problems that we might face in the future. Lastly, pwede rin kayo maglagay dyan ng recommendation for the people who wants to pursue your study. That's all for the conclusion po. Thank you.
Next.
Okay, so next is the bibliography. So dito sa bibliography, dito ililista lahat ng mga sources na ginamit nyo sa paghahanap or yung mga sources na naging basis nyo sa paggawa ng RRL or Review of Related Literatures. Dito rin nakalagay yung kung anong link, kung anong title ng mga sources na ginamit nyo as basis in making your RRL. And then naka-category din yon based kung anong type ng source yung pinagkuhanan niyo, such as books, published journals, or kung unpublished journals man yan, or kung ano man possible na pwedeng mapagkuhanan ng information that you can use as basis for in making your RRL. And then, meron din kayong susundin na formats in making bibliography. So, nandito yung mga common na formats na ginagamit such as APA or American Psychological Association format. Madalas siyang ginagamit ng mga students in making research papers na sinasubmit sa school or kahit yun sa mga competitions. And then yung Chicago format naman, madalas rin siyang ginagamit sa mga research papers na sinasubmit for competitions. And then lastly, yung MLA or the Modern Language Association format. And then, importante rin sa bibliography na i-include lahat ng mga sources na ginamit, major man yan or minor, kailangan nakalista yan lahat dyan. Yun lang. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Rubik. Next is the guidelines. So, ito yung references namin sa tips na binigay namin sa inyo. So, just check those links at makikita nyo yung complete guidelines in writing a research paper and in conducting the research. Yan. Okay, so we're done with our presentation. Congratulations to the committee. And give us a thumbs up pala kung may natutunan kayong bago, ha? Thumbs up naman dyan. Hello, Jana?
What's up? Thumbs up tayo mga ka-committee. Okay, ngayon, merong isi-share screen sa atin si Miss Mayet, si Miss Saraza. Okay, may papakita kami sa inyong sample ng paper at we hope na it will be of help sa inyo. Alright? Let's see. Scroll.
So this paper is from the team of...
Atin.
Oh, it's... so
Mark.
Our title is...
Micro Aqua Real-Time Robot. Microplastic Detector, Counter, and Collector through Machine Vision using TensorFlow. Ayun. So, makikita nyo na ang format namin dyan ay yung Chicago. Ayan, scroll natin. Yun ang chapter 1, Introduction. Ayun, oh, kita nyo yun, yung sa baba. Bakit merong bibliography na agad doon? Ganan kapag Chicago format. Ilalagay mo yung sources ng kada RRL na nilagay mo dun sa baba ng ano mo. Lalagay mo yung... May format yan yung dun sa guidelines na pinakita ni Miss Adela kanina kung in-screenshot nyo.